Okay, well, hi everyone, and welcome to another Sketchfab live stream. My name's Tom Flynn. I'm one of the community team, and I'm here with Bart, another member of the team. And today we are going to be giving a live stream, just a short one, about the Sketchfab plugin for Blender. And there's a special reason for us deciding to do a stream about this week because Sketchfab is sponsoring a challenge over on Blender Artist. If I just bring that up actually over here, you can kind of have a quick look at it. So um, there is, maybe Bart, do you want to talk about the challenge?
I do, yeah. So we are doing this challenge for a special occasion. This year at the Blender conference in Amsterdam, it will be Blender's 20th open source anniversary. So 20 years ago, we went from closed source to open source and made Blender completely free. And we figured it might be nice to try and get enable some people to travel to Amsterdam who might otherwise not be able to come. And so we are the concept of the challenge is to redesign or reimagine or recreate one of the splash screens of Blender. So whenever you launch Blender, it comes up with the graphic, and every version of Blender has its own a new graphic. And you probably remember the one when you started using Blender yourself.
Mhm.
You don't need to use that one, but you can pick any of the artworks that you like and create something new out of that. You can combine them. You can use Creative Commons assets. You can do it any way you like. It's a very free and liberal challenge. And we have two amazing prizes. We will pay two people for flights, lodging, and conference access to Amsterdam, to the Blender conference. And the first prize also gets an additional 500 euros in cash to spend in Amsterdam or anywhere else. In addition, you will receive 12 months of Sketchfab Premium. And so I think it's a really cool opportunity to participate. You'll find information on the Blender Artists Forum. You can't really miss it. There's a big graphic at the top of the page. And we're also sharing updates on Blender Nation every once in a while. So yeah,
Awesome. Sounds very
that's it.
cool. Well, we encourage everyone to join the challenge. The Sketchfab team will also be in town during the Blender conference as well, so it's a chance to say hi, and we'll be meeting members of our community and the Blender community there as well. Before we get into looking at the plugin, I will just ask everyone to obviously like and subscribe to Sketchfab's channel here, and do let us know if there are live streams that you'd like us to do in the future. Just drop a comment or something in the chat box, and if you have any questions about the plugin or anything else, pop a question in the chat box, and we'll review them right at the end of the stream. I'm also going to quickly get up the Sketchfab blog. Because I want to remind everyone about um, Sketchfab's own ongoing challenge, Sketchfab Weekly Art Challenge. Weekly, there will be a prompt out on Sketchfab social media channels, and you have as much time as you like. Really, there'll be a prompt every week to respond to that prompt with a 3D model uploaded to Sketchfab with the right tag. This week, the topic is Shield, and you can find a link to all the information in the description of this video. So let's now have a look at Blender, the Blender plugin, the Sketchfab plugin for Blender, and how to get them. So if you're not familiar with Blender, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but Blender is a widely used 3D editor. You can do all kinds of things with it, and it's even better than that, it's free to download and use. It's an open source piece of software. So if you go to blender.org, you can click download Blender and get the latest version and install it on whatever system you're using, Windows, macOS, Linux, and other versions. There's a Steam version too. So you get Blender, download it, install it, and then this is the page for the plugin that Sketchfab offers for Blender. So there's a link to this in the description as well, to this page. And if you scroll down, there is a really handy guide to installing and how you log in, and all the things that we're going to cover in this live stream, but you can go back to them on the GitHub page as well. So if you have installed Oh, I should have, let's just close that because I was testing something. If you've installed Blender and you've installed the plugin correctly, it should look something like this. I'm just going to delete everything there. I'm going to hit the N key to open up the tools menu over this side, and here's Sketchfab. Click that tab and we can have a quick look at what the plugin holds. I'll just collapse everything so that you can see that. Maybe I'm just going to zoom up my interface for a tiny bit. So quickly overview of the different things that you can do with the plugin. There is activating the plugin and logging in. We'll do that in a second. There's a tab for Sketchfab for Teams. So that's a digital asset management service that Sketchfab offers. And if you have a particular library of 3D models on Sketchfab, you can log in to your Teams account and have access to all the private assets that you've hosted on your Sketchfab for Teams account. I'll put a link to more info on Sketchfab for Teams in the description. Then the two main kind of use cases for the plugin: import. You can import 3D models from Sketchfab's library. There are hundreds of thousands of free Creative Commons licensed 3D models on Sketchfab. You can also search, if you're a Pro Plus subscriber, you can search and download your own 3D models and your store purchases if you've bought anything from the Sketchfab store as well. So all these 3D models are available to import. And then the flip side, once you have created something in Blender, whether it's with downloaded assets or something original that you've created, you can upload directly from within Blender, which makes it just a bit easier to go between, when you're ready to publish, you can send it straight from Blender. And we'll talk a bit more detail about each of these as we go. Finally, there's the About section where you can go and check out the documentation. Again, it's the README on GitHub that we looked at briefly a second ago. And then if something's wonky with the plugin and needs fixing, you can report an issue down the bottom there. So what we're going to look at to begin with is importing some assets, free assets from Sketchfab, and building a quick scene and then sending it back to Sketchfab once we've assembled some assets. So first, when you have just installed the plugin, when you click Activate Add-on up here, you'll be prompted to put in your email address and password for Sketchfab, and that will link the plugin to your Sketchfab account. I've already done that, so if I click Activate Add-on, it's just logged me in. It remembers from last time that I was logged in. I'll just twirl down the import section and give you a quick tour of that. So the main thing that you might be doing with the plugin is using the search feature, and you can decide to search the whole website, the whole site, your own models, that's for a Pro Plus perk, and as well as your store purchases. I don't believe you need to be Pro to access your store purchases. You can be on any subscription, even the free basic subscription, to find your store purchases. And then you can just pop in a search term like cat, for example, and then you'll get the results for cat. If I click on this thumbnail, I can access another page, and we can then jump to the next page by hitting next page, previous page, and find more cats. Just to go back up again, there are search filters that you can apply to your query to narrow down what you're looking for. So say we can look for cats in animals and pets. And we can sort by the number of likes, the views, or the most recent cat 3D models in the animals and pets category. And we can also limit the face count, which is a very handy thing if you have a budget for your scene and you only want smaller assets. You can set the maximum face count for those models. You can ask for PBR models only in your results, only staff picks. So that's really great models that the team at Sketchfab have selected and highlighted, and animated models as well. So you can find and browse the collection in many different ways. Once you've found something you like, you can just click the import button. So I'm just going to click import and see what happens. And there we've imported the scene that we found there. Very quick. This is quite a relatively small scene. But I don't want a cat actually today. So I'm going to just delete that from my scene again. And I'll show you one more thing. What I've prepared on Sketchfab, if I go to my account and collections on Sketchfab. So if you're not familiar with Sketchfab, this is what it looks like. And I've been browsing Sketchfab and finding a few 3D models that I'd like to put together in a scene. And on the site, I limited it only to downloadable models. So I have a collection of 6 models here that I know are downloadable. I've had a look at them in Sketchfab to preview kind of what they look like and kind of try to put together some models that have the similar vibe and feel. So if I am ready to start creating something, I can obviously, if I know real-time grass is the name of this model here, I could search for real-time grass and hopefully we'll get a result for that. Oh, maybe I'm searching in animals and pets. That's not gonna work, is it? Try that again. Nope. Not getting any results there. Grass gives us some. I'll try that again. Real-time grass. And it's not finding it. Of course, it's going to be the one thing that I try and show you. Well, if that's a problem, if you can't find it, this is the solution. I know where the model is. I can open that model and grab the URL from the top here. This is what I'm expecting to see. And I can, under the import settings, import from URL. So then I just simply paste in the URL and momentarily, if things go well, we should have our grass. Okay, I'm just going to close this panel for a second so we can look at what we've got. So what's happening here? Obviously it doesn't look like our grass, but if I switch to the material preview and deselect, you can see that we've got our circle of grass here and some extra assets here that I'm going to delete because all I want is this nice patch of grass. There are some relationship lines that are making this. I don't know if you can see this kind of circular pattern, but that's not actually in the model, so we'll just ignore that for now. So I've got some grass. Great. Let's do the same thing for our the rest of our assets. So next I'm going to copy the link for this bush. And we'll see how that imports. Okay, that's imported very huge. So what we'll do is we'll scale that down, scale it down a bit more. Switch to a view here. I'm just going to put it over here, rotate it a little bit, duplicate it, make it bigger. Maybe move both of these bushes to the back a little bit. And why not? Let's duplicate it one more time. Ooh. And then let's move it forward a bit, to the side a bit. So we have a few little bushes. Great.
You're going very Bob Ross here, Tom. It's amazing.
Yeah, I wish I had some life advice to go with this as well. But
Yeah.
got some happy little bushes. Let's get a happy little tree to go with it. Pop open my importer again, import the model. So like I say, you could be browsing using the search, but because I had a bit of an issue there, I'm just switching to adding in the URL. So this tree is absolutely ginormous. Let's get it down to size. Ooh. Very exciting watching me make this. So that's one tree. Let's duplicate that, make it a bit bigger, and we'll just move. I remember from using this, I need to make sure I grab the foliage as well. stick it amongst the trees. Let's make this bush a bit bigger so it can cover up the base of the. Select all my trees. Just want to make sure that everything's kind of lined up in the ground. Okay, yeah, that looks good. So we've got some trees. One more element, I think.
One thing that I ran into when importing models like this is if you have an object that's usually composed of multiple parts, and if you just select the top part in the outliner, it might not grab the entire model, right? So you could be stuck with just the leaves or just the trunk. So what you want to do is shift-click the item in the outliner, and then you're sure to have all the parts of the model.
Okay. So that we should see that for the trees, actually, if I grab tree for games. Yeah, there is two elements for that, the foliage and the trunk of the tree as well. I'll just quickly do moving around for this. Let's just say really helpful view there. Scale it down. And, oops, excuse me. Shift D, one here, here. How's that looking? Okay. Well, in no time at all, we've got a nice enough collection of models. I think it's worth pointing out, as you mentioned, Bart, that because the 3D creative community is a very broad church, people make their 3D models in all kinds of different ways, as we've seen in all kinds of different scales. So you will find that there may be things you need to tweak inside of Blender to make the 3D model do and look how you need it to. It'd be unlikely that two different people in two parts of the world make their trees, bushes, and characters to the same scale, for example, in the same software. I'm going to import one more model because I think we spent enough time on this now, which is this nice character model. And there are links to each of these 3D models in the description to this video. So please do go and check out the creators of those models. Oh, look, our character is ginormous. Where is she also going? And obviously, oh, is she underneath everything? She is. Scale that down a bit more. Almost done. So I'm using static models. You could obviously find nicely animated models, other things to add to your scene, but oh, I've just noticed that all my secondary bushes are poking out beneath that one or that one.
While you're doing this, Tom, I have a question that people might have. Does the model always look identical to what it looks like in the Sketchfab viewer? Like, does the import support all the features?
That is a good question indeed. The short answer will be no. It won't look exactly like, I mean, especially right now I'm using the material preview. If I switch to rendered view, there's no lighting set up in the scene, but most of the PBR settings will carry through. So when we look at the kind of different parts of our character, maybe I should add a lamp.
Yeah, I think in general, all the material properties will be fine, but you can also define post-processing filters in the Sketchfab viewer, right? And those will not carry over with the imports.
Indeed. So there are some settings that are specific to Sketchfab and some that are specific to Blender. So you can kind of see, and if we actually click on this, I've just switched to the shading graph. You can see that all the textures, the metallic roughness textures have imported with this character model as well. I don't know how apparent it is on the stream where, for example, the golden buckles are shiny, but I promise you they are. Back to this. So yeah, I think it's worth getting to know the plugin and how it works, so that when you're starting to use it in your creative projects, that you know what you're expecting. But right now, I'm pretty happy with this very small scene that we've made. So everything that you've downloaded will be packed into this Blender file already. I believe that we've been importing, and Bart, you can correct me if I'm wrong, the GLTF versions of the files that we've downloaded from Sketchfab. So when you upload to Sketchfab, it can be whatever file format you've created in. And Sketchfab does some auto conversion magic, so that when you make it available for download, it's available in the original format in GLTF, as well as USDZ, and more recently a GLB format with a 1K texture package. And this makes it easy to pull the 3D models not just into this plugin for Blender, but all of the other plugins. So some hundreds of apps that Sketchfab is integrated with. You'll be able to import it thanks to the file conversions, making it ready for each of these different apps. I think I'm ready to send this to Sketchfab. So I've just pulled out the Sketchfab menu again and rolled out the export menu, and we've got a few fields here, a title, Blender plugin scene, call it that. We could give it a description. I'm not going to do that right now. And we can also give it a set of tags. So if we separate them with a comma, at least I think you separate them with a comma, forest, let's imagine. And then we can decide, do we want this to be a draft on our account? Do we want it to be a private upload? And that's a Pro Plus feature. And we'll look at kind of re-uploading in just a minute. So I do want it to be a draft. Otherwise, as soon as we hit upload, it will get published to my profile, and all of my followers on Sketchfab will get notified if they have their notifications on that I've uploaded a model. But essentially, we fill in a few fields, and then we can hit upload. And so that gives us an idea of how big the scene is. So 57 megabytes, not tiny. But while that's uploading in the background, maybe we can, what can we, just look at my notes here, make sure I'm not missing anything. Import by your import, yep, browse gallery, great.
Yep, I think you haven't skipped anything. But one thing that I would like to to comment on is that if you're using Creative Commons assets from Sketchfab or anywhere else, usually they require attribution as well. So you should keep notes of like the original artist and the link of the work, and so that you can provide that attribution when you publish it on Sketchfab, or if you create a render and share that, you should always acknowledge the original artists of these works as well. And I think if you download or import a model with the importer, it keeps a copy on your local disk as well. Although I'm not 100% sure where. We can find that out and leave that in the show notes afterwards.
Yep.
And the download will contain a tiny text file with the exact license and original URL, etc. So you can find that again.
And I'm just going to show everyone that if we, on the download pop-up for a particular model, let's go back to show you. If you're on a model page, oh my goodness, let's reload that. If you're on a model page and you click the download button, there's information about the license, and there's also a very easy copy credits section. So this will give you everything that you need. And this is basically what I added to the description of this video, is I just used the copy credits information. And as Bart says, that's the kind of thing that you would put into the description for your model when you've published it on Sketchfab. So just jump back. The model that we asked Blender to upload has been sent, and what you're sending is the blend file, essentially the .blend file, up to Sketchfab, and Sketchfab's going to get that ready for publishing online. And once it's uploaded, you can view the model online. So if we click that, it will just open in the browser. And this model is processing. So this is Sketchfab doing all the nifty stuff that it does to display your model online and prepare it for viewing. So while that's happening, I've prepared a handy example already. Oh, I should also say that if you go to your user account /uploads, you can check the status of any of your uploads. So for example, you can see that this one is processing and these ones have have been successful. If something doesn't work, you'll have an error here, and you can report an issue related to that if you're having trouble. When you upload from Blender, I think we kind of talked about this a little bit, but what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to bake all of your textures to texture maps. So your models will need to be UV unwrapped. Sketchfab doesn't currently support materials, so kind of dynamic materials. And you would want to bake your animations and apply all of your modifiers that you have on your model as well, because these are all not supported by the Sketchfab viewer, although Sketchfab copes very well with a lot of the things that you can throw at it.
Geometry nodes is another thing that you should bake or instance before uploading.
Indeed. There may be more, but it will all be in the documentation. And I think for the purpose of this stream and keeping it a bit shorter, let's carry on. And so this is the scene, same scene, or rather the same assets. I did upload it earlier using a different setup in Blender, a different Blender instance, and I've just kind of set this up with a background, some lighting, some post-processing effects. And you can see that everything's kind of, so from the original creators of these assets uploading to Sketchfab, Sketchfab making the copies available in GLTF, etc., back into Blender, back from Blender as a blend file, and we're back online again, ready to share this model. I'll quickly look at the 3D editor, but I'm not going to talk about this too much because we have other streams available online that show you about the 3D editor. But I'm now kind of looking at the settings for this 3D model, where we could, for example, adjust the materials of our characters. Oh, I think I put some emission on this so that it was a bit brighter. Adjust the materials of the character as well as the lighting for the scene. I've got a spotlight shining and then kind of a key light behind. We can set up the scene for viewing in VR and AR. So this is the scale. We can play with the scale of the scene so that when it's published in AR or VR, people will be the right size.
Does it have any shadows already? I can't really tell from my tiny preview here.
It does have, there are shadows. If I switch
cool.
to a lighter kind of color, I've got the baked ambient occlusion shadow there. And if I rotate the, actually, I don't think I set my my lights to have shadows, but if I switch on the lighting for the environment, we can see. We should be able to see some shadows. It's a very faint shadow.
Nice.
And I added some screen space ambient occlusion and some depth of field, a little vignette under post-processing as well, just to make it look nice. So I'll close that now. So we've looked at, very briefly, importing assets, exporting assets, giving proper attribution credits. That's very important. And thanks, Bart, for reminding me about that. If we wanted to add something to this scene, so say I wanted to add this rock that I put in my collection, but I didn't actually use. Let's say we just said, oh yeah, this scene needs a rock in it, and let's grab our rock, rotate it. Going inside out, but that's all right. We're just doing a quick demo. Turn it around, stick it in the ground. So we've added this rock to our scene, and we think, oh yeah, that's more balanced. That's great. But what we don't want to do is then upload a new model to Sketchfab. You can click the Reupload button under the export settings, and then if I find the URL for, if I click the right things, if I find the URL for the scene that we uploaded, so sorry if that was a bit too fast, I've gone to uploads. This is the scene we just uploaded that is finished processing. In fact, let's have a quick look at it as it imported So this is before we did anything with the background or the lighting in Sketchfab. But as you can see, it's still looking pretty good, but we want to overwrite this. So I grab the URL, go back to the plugin, check to re-upload. I can put the URL in there and then click re-upload, and that will overwrite the file that we previously uploaded, which can be quite handy if you upload and then you do that classic thing where you realize you've forgotten to, I don't know, do X or Y, add something, remove something.
And I think it's good to note that if you re-upload, we try to keep as many settings intact as possible. So if you made any changes to materials in the 3D editor or to any of the filters, those should still be applied to your scene, right, after re-uploading.
Yep, which is pretty cool. Saves you a lot of time, so you don't end up setting up everything over and over again, especially if you've done something really interesting or odd or weird you can't remember. But that's essentially it, I think. If you have more questions, I mean, do drop them in the chat now, but do visit the documentation, ping somebody on Sketchfab, join the forum, join the Discord. These are all great places to find our Blender users who can tell you all kinds of things about Blender and the plugin as well as our help center.
We do have a few questions, and I'll go through them. Also, while watching you work with your collection and bringing these models into your scene, I think we just identified a nice new feature request, which is to plop in a collection URL and be able to browse that directly from within Blender.
Totally, yeah, that would be very handy.
That would be just so you can prepare, like pick and choose your work while on Sketchfab, and then just copy one URL into Blender and then drag your objects from there.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, and it's also, I guess, worth pointing out that there are hundreds of amazing collections that people have made on Sketchfab for different themes. So there are lots of collections of downloadable content that is maybe medieval themed or sci-fi themed. So yeah, there's great stuff to browse and find that way as well.
We also share manually curated collections on our social media every day, and usually those are packs of props that are ready to use or parts of scenes that you could use, etc. So we have like backpack toms with medieval weapons, rocks, nature stuff, landscapes, anything you can think of. You will find it on those collections. So if you scroll back a bit in our history, you will find a lot of really great collections there. Tom, I have two questions for you. One is from Misha for Sculpt, and they ask, can the Blender plugin handle importing grease pencil files?
Currently, you would have to do some conversion to the grease pencil strokes to convert them to standard meshes and then upload them. And we've seen a few people doing that on Sketchfab. I don't know if I can actually, if I search for grease, this is a bad idea. If I search for grease pencil. So yeah, currently it's not possible directly. But here we go, some examples. Grease pencil sketch. Maybe we should work on a tutorial for importing this. So if I turn on the wireframe for this, you can see that it's actually a standard mesh, a custom profile. So yeah, kind of, I guess is the answer there.
Yeah, it needs a little bit of work. And I think that the same is true for some other object types like curves, metaballs, the more like exotic primitives in Blender. They might need some conversion to meshes. Like everything needs to be a mesh, basically. So that's also true for geometry nodes, etc. The reason behind that is that Blender has some very specific ways of handling objects, and Sketchfab supports over 50 different 3D apps. So we need to be very generic in what we accept. And Blender's development is very fast as well. So it will be really hard to keep up with all the amazing new stuff that we see every quarter now. But yeah, once we have a new tutorial, we'll share that on our blog and social media as well. I think it will be really nice because grease pencil art is something else. It's like a very different style of 3D work, right? So yeah, let's try and get that done. Then the comment maker asked, can we post mocap files here as well?
In the sense that you have a mocap file that is attached to an armature and is animating a character,
That's what I'm assuming.
If there's a specific file format that you're talking about, I don't believe so, but yeah, it would have to be kind of attach, like I say, kind of the animation data needs to be attached to a character
Yeah.
or an armature. You can't kind of just throw just the mocap data into Sketchfab. There will be nothing to show, and I don't think Sketchfab will process and display
Yeah,
that.
we don't support those like BVH, etc. We don't support that. What you can do if you're interested is you could upload a model with like a rig model with the animation attached. And then inside the archive, if you upload manually through the website, you could add a subdirectory with the original BVH file. So anything in the subdirectory, we will ignore it while processing, but people will still be able to download that later on. So that's a way to distribute that kind of data. And
Yeah, I'll quickly, while you're just mentioning that, I'll just show that on screen because it's a feature that I think a lot of people miss sometimes is here's a 3D model that I've uploaded. It's a scan and I've made that downloadable. But in the properties, if I scroll down a tiny bit, there is this section, attach additional file. And this is just a zip of whatever you want. So as Bart says, it could be any kind of file type. I've chosen to upload a high resolution version of the same model, but this is where you can just click upload, select your zip,
nice, I forgot about the additional file.
and then
Nice.
pop it up there. So yeah, well worth checking out. Okay, are there any more questions?
No, that was it. I think it was a great walkthrough. And if people have any questions, how can they best reach us, Tom?
You can reach us on social media. You can drop a message on one of our models on the website. There are many ways to get in touch, but the forum, Discord are the places you probably get a response quickest. You can also email community@sketchfab.com with specific requests. If it's something to do with support, we have a support team and help center to use as well. Before you all start emailing us about your favorite colors or.
And if you're interested in participating in the Blender Artist Challenge, again, visit the website. There's a big banner at the top. There's an FAQ section. If you have any questions about how to participate, how to prepare your model, etc., we can help you out there as well.
Cool. Well, I hope this has been useful to everyone, and please do give it a try. And yeah, we'll see you next month for another live stream.
Right, Tom. Thank you.
Cheers, Bart.
See you, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Bye.